Good morning to all my friends and family, and welcome to another beautiful Sydney autumn morning. It's 5:30 and I welcome you to my YouTube channel, Jim's 5am Club. What I plan on doing this morning is extending one of the original vlogs that I did earlier in the week, where I talked about a magnificent book of a title Never Finished by David Goggins. And what I want to do today is supplement and complement what I initially talked about with a few more points, because I was so impressed with that book. David Goggins is quite unique in his style. He's very direct, he's very matter of fact, he's very military, and it's a style which resonates really well with me, and I hope that the messages that come from his book, Never Finished, are messages that we can all benefit from in some way or another. So what we'll do is we'll call this part B, and it'll be a follow-on from the one I did the other day. So one of the points that David Goggins talks about is the importance of developing a trained humility. And I absolutely love this, because humility is one of the Christian ideals. You know, we are all called to being humble, and the reason why we're called to being humble, and sometimes we need to train ourselves to maximize that humility, is that by being humble we open ourselves up to further growth and development. If you think you know everything, if you think you've been everywhere, then life ends for most people at that point. We need to continue scratching the surface. We need to continue the journey, because life is one great lesson. Creation is the greatest gift, and the opportunities, the outcomes are absolutely infinite, I guess is the word I'm looking for. So you can do the same thing over and over again and just change the way you do it just a little bit, and you can get a completely different outcome. So what David Goggins here suggests is that we need to continue to live just outside our comfort zone, and to embrace and to enjoy discomfort, and to not be too proud, not to be too egotistical, and to welcome humility, putting ourselves in a position where we don't overthink and overemphasize our importance, and to be willing to accept life lessons and OPE, other people's experiences, to supplement what we already have. Because you can live a life and have your own experiences. You can live one life. You can live your life and just do one thing after another, and use those experiences to build your worldview. But if you just take that avenue, then what happens is that you could be living a false life, because we all live slithers of reality. We all have different slithers of reality, because we don't have time to experience every perspective within a given moment. We can only receive and consider one particular slither of reality and experience, and our interpretation of our experience, which could be different to the interpretation of the same experience from somebody else who's sitting or standing right next to us, because they could be obsessing, they could be focusing on something completely different at that particular point in time, and they may be comparing and contrasting what happens at that point in time to other patterns that they've experienced throughout their lives, which could be completely different to the patterns that you've experienced along the way, and hence have a totally different experience and learn a totally different lesson. So what we're called to do is we're called to supplement and complement and leverage our experiences with OPE, which is other people's experiences, where we take the slithers of reality that other people have had in their lives and we add it to our bank, our inventory, our storehouse of knowledge and wisdom. And it's called OPE, other people's experiences. And the way we gain OPE is by reading books, reading book summaries, watching documentaries, and just learning from other people's lives. So in order to do that, you need to remove the barrier of your own ego. You need to become humble and open to the universe, open to your environment, open to the people around you, in order to be able to absorb the many wonderful lessons. And you need to ask the right questions. You need to be discerning with who you hang out with. You need to be discerning with what you open yourself up to, because by having too much of an open mind means that you risk polluting your mind with everybody else's rubbish. So we need to be cautious. We need to be determined. We need to do things in a methodical way so that we can add the unknown to the known. So from a very young age, we need to have some very, very clear values and some very clear foundations and strong foundations, because we want to be adding the unknown to the known, but to make sure that the known, the foundation that we're starting from, is sound from the very beginning. You don't want to be starting from a false foundation. You don't want to be starting from an incorrect starting point, because what you'll be doing is you'll be adding conspiracy theory to conspiracy theory, and you'll end up being a conspiracy theorist. You'll end up being in a place which you probably didn't want to end up, but because you opened yourself up to OPE or OPR, other people's rubbish, that rubbish will end up accumulating and, I guess, swapping out the good stuff that you started with all the, all the rubbish that other people have deposited in your mind and in your memory bank. So we need to be humble, but we also need to be discerning with our humility, so that we learn and add and develop, and to shed our skins along the way. No, we just can't continue to be the same person. We are called by God to grow and develop throughout our lives, and to become bigger, better versions of ourselves. The author here says that in order to grow and develop, we need to spend more time outside the shallow end of the pool. And we need to be surrounded by family, friends, and environment that will facilitate and help our growth and development in the right ways. because our growth and development is a function, is connected to the people that we hang out with. Sooner or later we become the mean average of the half dozen people we spend most time with, So what we need to do is that we need to be in a circle that allows us to grow and develop, and that circle needs to be able to grow and develop as well, because by you growing and developing, the people that you're hanging out with need to be growing and developing as well, else they'll hold you back, else they'll make you feel uncomfortable. And you shouldn't fall into the trap of holding yourself back and to subconsciously check your own progress and hold your own progress back, to keep contact and avoid outpacing those close to you. And for that reason, parents, grandparents, uncles, aunts and family need to continue their quest for growth and development, and to allow their children, grandchildren and others around them to grow their wings and to express their calling, to be able to take their own individual skills, talents, charismata, and to work those so that they can fulfill their own calling and to be the best, as I said before, the best version that they can of the person who they are meant to be. The author here also talks about something else which is really, really powerful. I love this. This is one of those points that slaps you in the face and really shakes you to your core, where he says the only thing more infectious than a good attitude, the only thing more infectious than a good attitude is a bad attitude. How does that sound? That is so bloody true. And the more you dwell on the negative things in the world, the weaker you feel, and that weakness infects all of those around you. So we need to be careful what we dwell on. We need to be careful what we obsess on. We need to be careful what we say to ourselves or what we allow others to say to us, because that negativity, as the author says, is deeply infectious and will not only infect you consciously and subconsciously, but will have a dramatic effect on all of those around you. And you've got to understand one thing: whilst everybody talks the big talk, very few people step out of their own comfort zone and stretch themselves in order to grow and develop. So you need to be leaning just outside your comfort zone on a daily basis in order to give yourself room to grow and develop. And you need to be constantly clearing out and changing your skin so that you're making room for other things to come into your life. You need to remove things, you need to remove people in order to create a vacuum, and that vacuum will suck in other opportunities into your life. Because if you're too busy, if your timetable is too intense, then you're not going to have the chance, you're not going to have the time to do anything else other than the things that you've been doing over and over again your whole life. You need to open yourself, you need to open your diary, you need to open your life and open your heart to new experiences and new opportunities. And most people, as we mentioned before, talk the big talk but don't do anything about it. and the vast majority, according to this author, are people who simply want to be led. I remember hearing this at a conference, at a seminar that I went to years ago, where Jay Abrahams, the advertising guru, said that most people simply want somebody else to grab them and hold them by their hand and lead them through life. And what David Goggins says is that the reason why we want to be led is simple, because it's much easier to follow than to pioneer your own path. I remember going to a seminar years ago where Jim Rohn says that it's easy to be successful. It's very, very easy to be successful. You just need to do things day after day and have invisible wins, and sooner or later those invisible wins will turn into visible, powerful, great advancements in your life. But he says, or Jim Rohn said, that the reason why most people are not successful in their lives is because it's easier to be unsuccessful. It's easier to do nothing rather than to do something, which is very similar to what David Goggins is saying here, that the vast majority of people simply want to be led because it's easier to follow than to pioneer your own path. He also goes on to say something here which is really powerful as well, something really profound, and something that I try to live by on a daily basis, especially at work. And I remember reading about this somewhere else, where the owner of Amazon, Jeff Bezos, said, but this is what Dave Goggins says as well, we need to take an oath to live with a day one mindset. And Jeff Bezos says the same thing. You need to wake up every day, and whatever you do, to do it with the energy and with the mindset that you're doing it for the very, very first time, with that sort of attitude and that sort of energy level. Because what will happen is that you will have the right attitude, and you need to do it day in, day out, because what happens is we end up becoming comfortable, not only comfortable, but we end up becoming too comfortable. And when you become too comfortable, you become lazy, you care less, and you start dropping your standards and start falling away and losing ground. And once you start, Dave Goggins says that you need to continue and only stop when you're done. Don't just stop whenever you feel tired. You need to stop whenever you've achieved your particular outcome. So you need to focus, you need to be obsessive, and you need to keep on doing what you're doing, and do it until you reach the very end, and then start again or reshape your goals and continue. Because we need to be continuing to redefine ourselves. And the important thing to realise, and this is what Dave harps on as well, is that we are all limited by the artificial barriers that we have in our minds, in our hearts. The artificial barriers, just like the baby elephant that is chained to a post and learns helplessness from a very young age. We humans too are prone to becoming learned helplessness, or to learn helplessness. And once we've learned that we can't do something, then we give up. But it's important to understand that we all have our own fate, and if something doesn't succeed initially, we just need to continue trying, but altering and changing our methodology along the way, until our turn comes to achieve some outcomes and to gain our successes. But sooner or later you'll find out whether or not it's God's plan for you to achieve a particular outcome. But you've got to keep on trying, and you've got to change your method of attack, and to know that we all have a fate. And just because you're fishing today on that wharf with 100 different other people and you didn't catch a fish, or you didn't catch a big fish, it doesn't mean that tomorrow when you go fishing on the same wharf with the same people or other people that you won't randomly catch that big fish or a huge amount of fish. You've got to keep the hope alive. You've got to keep on fishing. You've got to be in it to win it. And we need to continue to redefine ourselves and to understand that brainwashing starts very early in our lives and starts at home. And our identities are shaped along the way with our own experiences, by our own outcomes that we achieve, but also we inherit our identity from other people. So our identity bank is either added to or depleted. And importantly, you need to understand, we all need to understand, is that what we identify with becomes our ego. And once you create an ego about something and you attach yourself to something, then that in itself limits you, because you say, you know, this is who I am, and you rust on to that identity. And that identity may not always be empowering, and it may not always be an identity that will allow you to grow, develop, and live a better life. So we need to be humble, and we need to make sure that we're constantly cleansing our values, cleansing what we are, what we do, and making sure that it's aligned, it's congruent. Our values, our goals, our actions, our social circles need to be aligned to what we're trying to achieve and who we are destined or want to be. You can't achieve certain outcomes if you don't have the right stepping stones in place. But having said that, you can always change. You can change in a heartbeat, which is another empowering message from this author. And the author says to us that life is not a straight line and will never be a straight line. It will never be a simple step after step after step up a ladder to a peak. And it's not even a zigzag line either. The author here says that we need to understand and to embrace that life is a maze. Life is a game of dead ends, false summits, a game of snakes and ladders, with what appears later on in life, when you look back, to be a loaded dice. So life is never going to be linear for any of us. It's never going to be simple. But life is going to be our life, is going to be unique to us, and we are all called upon to make the most of our life, what we've got, our charismata, because we are born in God's image. We have elements of God's virtues that we need to work, we need to sweat, we need to grow and develop in order to create the outcomes that we are asked to deliver in terms of our calling. And to know that we need to grow, we need to push ourselves, and nothing is going to come easy to us, but to do whatever we can do to serve God with all our heart, mind and soul, to worship God and to also use our charismata, our ingredients, to make not only our lives better, but to use those things, those gifts of God, to make other people's lives better as well, to love one another as we love ourselves, with the premise being that we need to love ourselves first, we need to invest in ourselves to grow and develop, and then once we achieve a certain level of maturity, growth and development, to use whatever gifts come our way, whatever successes we have, to help others along the way. Thanks very much for listening in today. I look forward to coming to you again from another place with another message of empowerment, and to live, learn and pass it on. Take care everybody. Yassas from Jim's 5am Club. Until we meet again, bye for now.